To my father, for my daughter, for you.
This is what it is, okay? I said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless,
Like water.
Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow,
Or it can crash.
Be water, my friend.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with this quote of my father's, it first came into his understanding around the practice of martial arts.
People really don't appreciate what he did.
He's inspired the people who inspired us.
So deep. So deep.
Everyone thought they were Bruce Lee.
When Bruce Lee kick, you don't shake your eyes.
Bruce Lee is the reason why most of these guys are in mixed martial arts.
You ask any fighter out there growing up who their inspiration was, everybody says Bruce Lee.
Everything he speaks is the true essence of martial art.
The things us martial arts draw from today, he came up with a lot of that stuff. Like, where do you come up with this stuff?
He was such a bad motherfucker. People really don't appreciate what he did. Because what he did was introduce martial arts in an exciting way to the whole world.
All the combative arts like karate or karate, judo, you see like aikido, Korean, I can go on and on. But it's a combative form of fighting.
He said of his passion for martial arts, "Everything I have learned through the practice of martial arts." Through heavy physical training and combat, my father had the opportunity to translate principles between mind and body, from idea to action, on a constant basis. Most, and possibly all, of what he espoused philosophically started first as an approach to being a successful martial artist.
What Bruce Lee said is use everything that's useful. Everything that's useful. And he put together a system of martial arts that incorporated everything that he learned, from grappling from Jean LaBelle, and karate from Chuck Norris and Tang Soo Do, and kung fu from Yip Man, from Wing Chun. He put it all together with Western boxing and wrestling. He realized there's so many different ways to fight, and the style is having no style. The way is no way.
But let's begin at the beginning. My father began studying Wing Chun Kung Fu in Hong Kong at the age of 13. His sifu, or teacher, was a man by the name of Yip Man, also Ip Man. He often illustrated his teachings through parables on nature, such as using the difference between an oak tree and bamboo to make a point. The oak tree will eventually snap under a strong wind, while the bamboo survives because it can move with the wind. One day, Yip Man was trying to teach young Bruce to relax and calm his mind, to forget about himself and follow his opponent's movements instead. Essentially, he was trying to get him to practice the art of detachment, to respond intuitively to an opponent rather than get caught up in only his own strategy, obsessively calculating his own punches and moves. When my father would get in his own way, visibly trapped in his own cleverness and combativeness, sweat dripping off his furrowed brow, Yip Man would step in again and tell him to conserve his energy by going with the natural bend of things. Never assert yourself against nature, he told him. Never be in frontal opposition to any problem, but control it by swinging with it. What was he doing wrong? Why couldn't he understand what his teacher was saying? It didn't make any sense. His frustration spiked. In his fury, he leaned over and punched the South China Sea several times with all his might. Suddenly, a thought struck him, and he stopped and looked down at his wet hand. Had not this water just now illustrated to me the principle of Kung Fu? I struck it, but it did not suffer hurt. Again, I struck it with all my might, yet it was not wounded. I then tried to grasp a handful of it, but this proved impossible. This water, the softest substance in the world, which could be contained in the smallest jar, only seemed weak. In reality, it could penetrate the hardest substances in the world. That was it. I wanted to be like the nature of water.
The guy says, "Oh, now I see it."
Figuring out how to adapt and move to every situation, to be like water.
That's right.
And be formless.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
And he taught that philosophy, and that philosophy eventually became mixed martial arts. Bruce Lee was the first true mixed martial artist because he was the first true guru that was shouting it from the top of the hills. use everything that's useful.
Yeah.
Everything. And from all styles.
When man is living, he is soft and pliable. When he is dead, he becomes rigid. Pliability is life, rigidity is death, whether we are speaking of the body, the mind, or the spirit. Be pliable. The rigidity of the oak tree ultimately leads to its demise, just as a rigid mind or attitude can keep you from learning and growing and thereby lead to stress and discontent over time. If you cannot be pliable in your thinking or your response to a situation, then you have limited your options for success, for growth, and for joy. So how can we remain pliable and responsive and centered? We already know that one main ingredient is being present and aware of what is happening so that you can respond flexibly.
Everything, suppose, you just keep it moving.
It's like a ballet dancer there.
Yeah, it is. To them, you see, the idea is running water never grows stale. So you got to just keep on flowing.
Being like water means to be in flow. First, be present and aware, then adaptable and mobile. As my father said, like flowing water, life is perpetual movement.
To me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. Now, it is very difficult to do. It is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. Or I can make all kinds of phony things, you see what I mean? Blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly, that, my friend, is very hard to do.
Bruce Lee's on-guard position was both relaxed yet active. In this position, the rear heel is raised like a coiled serpent, ready to push off and strike at a moment's notice. The limbs are loose but not floppy, the knees bent, the feet hip-width apart, about the distance of a natural step between them, the back toe pointed at the front foot's instep, forming a triangle of stability, making it hard to knock you backward or side to side. In other words, active yet stable, relaxed but ready.
And you have to train. You have to keep your reflexes so that when you want it, it's there. When you want to move, you're moving. And when you move, you are determined to move. Not taking 1 inch, not anything less than that. If I want to punch, I'm going to do it, man, and I'm going to do it, you see.
If you watch my dad in his films, he is often bouncing around loosely in front of his opponent in his signature way. He is light on his feet. He writes about his stance. Fundamental positioning is the foundation. And so I proffer it is with an approach to life. A good foundation means having a strong posture that is able to adapt and move in any direction. It means just the right balance of relaxation and tension such that responses can be immediate and efficient. And it means being able to move and reposition simply and with ease so that you're never caught with your weight on your heels. A simple and effective organization of oneself, mentally and physically. This is a posture for engaged living.
Well, when I think of Bruce and use the term fighter, now I didn't fight relative to size and weight and division. It was a fight against person. Now, if the person was 135 or 335, it didn't matter. It was a fight between two people, and whoever was standing would win. Well, Bruce, 135 against Jim DeMille, 225, Ed Hart, 240, 250, professional boxer, kill you with either hand, Jesse Glover, super athlete, judo, karate, all of his street fighters, never been in tournaments. Jesse, of course, went into judo tournaments, but tournaments as we know them today. Bruce could beat us all.
When you think about it, water is always relaxed but ready. Think about the phrase, opening the floodgates. When the water is being held back by an obstruction of some kind, it is calmly waiting but ready to move. Remove the obstruction, and the water comes rushing through immediately without a moment's hesitation. Even while moving, it is in complete and effortless response to its environment. Throw a log across a moving stream, and the water adapts. It will spread and widen and deepen and work on any cracks or fissures it can until it finds a way through or creates an ecosystem all around and within. Water is responsive and alive.
And I don't mean it would be a struggle. I mean, he could beat us all and we didn't have a chance. This was in an actual fight situation where I tried to hit him. I tried to knock him out.
In order for water to be so on guard, it has to be holding a certain amount of tension. We tend to think of the word tension as a negative thing, but actually tension is a necessary component to aliveness. In order to metaphorically adapt an on-guard position in life, we need to strike a balance of aliveness. We don't need to be overly tense so as to be straining, but we also can't be so relaxed that we are checked out and incapable of responding. We need there to be a level of alertness that is grounded in a personal desire to be involved in our own lives.
I'll put him against anybody, any weight division, any size, any background, and I'll put my money on him.
To show him in combative form the art of expressing the human body.
We need a modicum of appropriate tension, enough that we are present, pliable, and engaged, such that when the floodgates open, we can flow on through.
Water can flow or it can crash.
He had the beauty of the art of fighting.
Which is acting, in a sense, isn't it?
Well,
or it would be useful, too, for an actor to have.
It might sound too philosophical, but it's unacting acting or acting unacting.
You've lost me.
I have.
In the Western world, we tend to consider yin and yang as opposites. Hot and cold, young and old, tall and short. But in the Eastern world, yin-yang, notice I removed the and separating the two, are considered complements of one another, not opposites. In fact, they work together to represent the whole of experience.
And how does it differ from, say, our kind of boxing?
Well, first we use the feet.
That's
and then we use the elbow. And
use the thumb too.
You name it, man. We
use it all.
You have to, you see, because that is the expression of the human body. Everything. Not just the hand. And when you're talking about combat, well, if it is a sport, now you're talking about something else. You have regulations, you have rules. But when you're talking about fighting as it is, with no rules,
real fighting,
well then, baby, you better train every part of your body.
If you think about it, hot and cold are merely the extreme ends of the whole experience of temperature. Without hot, there is no cold, and vice versa. And further, without both, there is not the moderate pleasantness of warmth or coolness. And so it is with water. Water is gentle, yet powerful, soft, yet strong, flowing, yet deep. And so it is with life. Life can be joyful and sad, beautiful and ugly, exciting and terrifying. And yet, these are the extremes of the whole experience. If we resist one half of the experience, we may never reach the heights of its rewards or the contentment of its balance. But when we strike a balance within the interplay of these extremes, we find peace and harmony. We find ease. So let us seek the full experience of this thing we call our life. Let's look at the entire ecosystem of our being and our humanity. And let's remember that, like water, we can flow quickly or slowly. We can train hard while being gentle with ourselves in the process. The journey of flowing toward self-actualization and wholeness is not undertaken lightly. It will require your full attention. But as you grow, you will begin to see, and more important, to experience, a fluid interplay between the elements that make you, you.
Be water, my friend.
When this clock strikes midnight, I'm going to be taking on No Nut November.